And what do you tend to dream about?
It's always just like really gorgeous, like really nice scenery. I'm flying around.
Dreams are part of the world we wish for and the reality that enters when we turn out the lights.
What are the rules of dreams?
The laws of physics aren't necessarily the same in the dreaming world.
This week, we peel back the covers to look into the science of dreams.
In this wide-open part of northeast Texas, traditionally used for farming cattle or oil, a much different vision.
I drove past a big ranch that was for sale, and it was just this like spark of an idea.
An idea for a ranch where pregnant women could live and give birth without the worries of the outside world.
That is not our realm. It doesn't matter what the laws are going to become, we are still here to help these moms.
And listening in on whales.
It's good to just constantly remind people there are whales out there and they're imperiled by these shipping activities. We should do something.
Their songs might be their salvation.
Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. For as much time as we spend sleeping and dreaming, and as long as we've studied both, they largely remain ever mysterious, their exact function and purpose elusive. Today, we're off to a brave new world of science surrounding sleep, dreams, and the exciting future of controlling your dreams to make your life better. Dream engineering.
Rachel Rader is getting wired for sleep.
The ones on the back of the head are the hardest.
She's about to go lights out as part of an experiment.
This side.
And what do you tend to dream about?
Usually beautiful scenery. Yeah, it's always just like really gorgeous, like really nice scenery. I'm flying around, looking at it, sometimes taking pictures.
Nice.
Yeah.
Pleasant dream.
Thank you.
And now you can close your eyes.
A few steps away, Rader's sleep and dreaming are being observed by researchers Will Pigeon and Michelle Carr.
Kind of a better example.
Stage 1 sleep is light sleep, stage 2 a little deeper, stage 3 a little deeper still, and then REM sleep is a completely different state of sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, named thus about 70 years ago by the folks who discovered it.
Here at the Sleep and Neurophysiology Research Lab at the University of Rochester, Carr and Pigeon spend most of their waking hours trying to pierce the secrets of our nightlife.
What happens on a nightly basis, we think, is that there are a couple things at the cellular level that are occurring that are incredibly important for maintaining this brain and body, this being of ours. So one of them is to clear junk from out of our neurons, our brain cells, that accumulate during the prior waking hours. So sleep is a time in general for the body to rest and restore, as well as clean things out. Very true for the brain as well. It's also true that we need sleep to recharge.
Far less, they say, is known about dreaming, a relatively newer side of sleep science.
What are some of the most universal common themes you've seen in dreams?
Bad dream themes like teeth falling out or out of control cars, natural disasters, tidal waves, fires, earthquakes. Some positive dreams that seem to be recurring. Finding money is a recurring positive theme. Another one is being in your house or in a place that you know and finding a room that you never knew existed. That's a really positive dream experience.
To me, but it's a haunted room. Oh. It's a really scary room.
That's not a good experience. But yeah, it's a common one, and it's kind of bizarre that happens, that so many people would dream about finding an unknown room in their house.
Well, they're naked sex dreams, right? So if you're 17 years old...
Are there?
The naked dreams that we have are probably related to stress dreams. So being naked is embarrassing. It's stressful to think about that. They tend to pop up, I think, in people who are having some level of stress in their lives. For some people, that threshold is very low. For some, it's very high.
What are the rules of dreams? Like, I've heard you don't die in your dreams. I did die once.
Yeah, I've died.
But what are some of the rules?
Yeah, it does seem like dreams are bizarre when we compare them to the waking world. Like, the laws of physics aren't necessarily the same in the dreaming world.
Do a lot of people fly?
A lot of people fly in their dreams. It's one of the most positive dream experiences, and it's universal. People report that. Although there's variation in how people fly. Some people like swim through the air, or some people just Superman.
So the dream world just has its own set of physiological rules and everything, it seems like.
Yeah, when we say dreams are bizarre, there are certain patterns of bizarreness that seem to repeat. So I'll be in a house, it doesn't look anything like my house, and yet in my dream, I know it's my house. Or you're looking at someone who doesn't look anything like your mother, but you know it's your mother in the dream. So that's one type of bizarreness. And another thing is there's these discontinuities, like these changes that will happen. So you're looking and talking to a friend, and then it suddenly turns into the president, and you don't even think twice about it.
Yeah, so why do we dream? One, some memory consolidation, rehearsal of memories, improving the memory system in some way. And that secondly, there's something about emotion regulation that occurs during dreaming, that it can improve regulation of emotions in some way if it's functioning properly.
To the first point, the learning element, that's why Rachel Rader is here. Prior to her nap, as seen here, she was asked to study sign language to see if her recall will improve after sleep and dreaming.
This is a very typical protocol in sleep research, is looking at how sleep, and in my case, how dreams are related to learning.
There's also emerging research on a very special type of dream.
What is a lucid dream?
So a lucid dream is when you become aware of the fact that you're dreaming while you're still asleep and in the dream. And eventually you can start to have control of actual things in the environment. Like you can say, I want to go through a portal, and in the next room I want to be in like Paris or something like that. And it doesn't just show up exactly like the waking world, of course. It's still very creative, but you start to have some level of agency over what you're doing in the dream and what your dream environment is starting to look like.
You're talking about dreams.
Which brings us to the emerging science of dream engineering, the plot of the 2010 science fiction film Inception.
We create the world of the dream. We bring the subject into that dream, and they fill it with their secrets.
The other, I think, brave new almost Inception world is to utilize dream engineering, working with one's dreams to actually treat some sleep problems. So there are flying dreams that we have, and when people have a flying dream, it tends to be fairly positive. So why don't we have more positive experiences while we're sleeping by teaching ourselves to fly more in dreams? So that would be a little bonus, right? So nightmares are a key component of post-traumatic stress disorder. What if we could teach folks to alter their nightmares in some way so that they're less nightmarish, and get downgraded to a disturbing or bad dream, and ultimately get downgraded to a neutral dream?
Dreams feel real while we're in them. It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange.
Back to the lab. When Rachel Rader awoke after her experimental nap, Carr tested her sign language recall. It had improved, reflecting the findings among other test subjects and opening the window into sleep secrets a tiny crack.
I think the more attention we pay to dreaming, I think we start treating each other better because we recognize that we're all humans with our own hopes and fears, and it brings us all together. It's a little cheesy, but I really believe that.
The researchers say you can teach yourself to recognize when you're actually in a dream and start learning how to control the content. Ahead on Full Measure, we're off to Texas to meet a couple with an unusual mission. Nearly 50 years after the Supreme Court decided women have a constitutional right to terminate their pregnancy, things may be about to change. A leak of a draft decision obtained by Politico suggests the court will soon overturn that case and return decisions on abortion to each state. Across the country, states have been busy passing legislation to either limit or protect abortion rights. Texas already adopted a ban on most abortions after about 6 weeks. Amid the heated debate, one couple near Dallas is approaching the issue from another angle, as Scott Thuman reports.
When you look at a piece of property like this, is it easy for you to envision it? Do you see this all in your head right now?
Yeah. I mean, and I have from the beginning.
In this wide open part of northeast Texas, traditionally used for farming, cattle, or oil, a much different vision. One that struck Aubrey Schlackman out of the blue Dallas sky while driving home one day.
I drove past a big ranch that was for sale. And it was just this spark of an idea. Brian was at work. So I sat on it and thought about it all day and just realized that all of these things that we've always wanted to do that are really unique to us all fit into this one thing.
What she thought of and pitched to her husband that night was a ranch, one where pregnant women with more challenges than financial or family support could live together in a community through their pregnancies, birth, and for one full year after.
The qualifications first are single, pregnant, with existing children. Because realistically, there are more opportunities out there for first-time moms. The maternity homes, in general, are limited to a mom with a baby, just due to space.
Our setting is the fact that it's on a ranch where there's peace, there's healing, it's in a rural, beautiful area instead of a hustle and bustle urban area where they don't feel safe. That's what's special about it. And they're gonna have their own cottages, their own small homes where they get to live and relax and rest. They're still gonna be working. Expectations is still to have a job. But they get their own place for at least 20 months to help rebuild their lives.
Their idea came before Texas passed its controversial heartbeat law, restricting most abortions after a fetal heartbeat can be detected, which is usually in the first 6 weeks when many women may still be unaware they're pregnant, and gives ordinary citizens the power to sue women, doctors, or really anyone helping provide that procedure. Even the Uber driver who brings a woman to the facility. There are a lot of people who look at the Texas heartbeat bill, who look at this and say, what a restrictive, terrible thing to not allow these women to have that choice.
That is not our realm. It doesn't matter what the laws are going to become, we are still here to help these moms. And it is I'm going to be straight up, it is a difficult position.
Honestly, we felt this calling and started this process in 2020, way before even here in Texas, the heartbeat bill was anywhere near.
How does that play into this?
It accelerated it.
It did accelerate. It did accelerate the need, obviously, because now these moms have that in front of them and don't have the option for an abortion, which in some ways for the pro-life movement is a good thing, but then you have to step into that space.
Our Creator endowed us with the right to life.
A space fraught with passionate fights currently playing out in state houses across the nation, where more than 100 new abortion-related laws have been passed since the beginning of 2021. And in Washington at the Supreme Court,
we are here this morning in prayer,
where pro-life Americans are hoping a ruling due this summer could fundamentally rewrite or even overturn the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision that legalized abortion nationwide.
As we stand here today, we may well be on the verge of an era when the Supreme Court sends Roe v. Wade to the ash heap of history where it belongs.
Aubrey and Brian share the former vice president's wish and went to Washington in December to publicize their project called Blue Haven Ranch on his podcast. They make no bones about where they stand.
I'm unapologetically a Christian, and we're unapologetically pro-life.
How big is religion in this goal?
Sure. I mean, I think our faith is key in our motivation.
It is an overflow of what we believe.
Yeah.
But we're not imposing our beliefs on anyone. And there is no prerequisite that the women that join our ranch have to be Christian.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that have left comments, like, you know, the nasty comments, thinking that we're some kind of cult or we're a breeding ground for babies, like as a business, like crazy ideas.
One day you're going to have many of these on the ranch. Mm-hmm. Finding land and building the ranch is in the near future, they hope. But they're not waiting. In fact, they're already supporting 5 mothers, at times paying their rent or even hosting them personally on their own property in this garage-turned apartment.
I've always driven past this property and thought, oh my gosh, it's just so beautiful and gorgeous.
The goal, once they land the right spot, to eventually host more than a dozen new mothers in their own cottages and 4 other families living on the property to provide on-site help. I'm guessing that you're hoping that what you do will inspire others.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is what we want to happen because we want to see all needs met for all moms in America.
Abortion hurts women!
Needs that keep growing, as political battlefields do too. For Full Measure, I'm Scott Thuman in Texas.
Coming up next, an update to our reporting on a controversial Alzheimer's drug. An update to our coverage of Aduhelm, a controversial new Alzheimer's drug that not one FDA advisor said should be approved due to questions about whether it works and is safe, but the FDA approved it anyway. Aduhelm originally went on sale last year for more than $50,000 per patient a year. When sales were lacking, the drug maker Biogen slashed the price in half. The federal government recently delivered a critical blow to the drug, deciding to pay for it only for a relatively small number of patients enrolled in an approved study. After that decision, Biogen's CEO stepped down and the company announced huge cost cuts as well as a dialing back on the infrastructure set up to make Aduhelm. When we return, the fascinating science of whale songs. Here's what's coming up next week on Full Measure. Social Security has cheated thousands of people out of income they're owed, and the only reason we know it is this whistleblower who tried to fix it.
Eventually they said, no, stop. Don't change anything else. Just leave them the way they are. Do your job.
Why those owed money still haven't been paid back on the next Full Measure. Today we leave you with a fascinating story from the ocean deep, where whales often emit mysterious rhythmic sequences of sound called whale songs. There's a lot of scientific study behind this form of communication, as Lisa Fletcher finds out in Woods Hole, Massachusetts.
Is it a language?
Would you consider birdsong a language? It's a way to communicate. If language, some languages are more complicated than others.
Mark Baumgartner is a senior scientist at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. He's evolving the science of tracking whales by following the sounds of their voice.
It's certainly a really interesting place to go with the research is if they use sound to say, I'm here and this is Mark, or I'm here and this is Lisa. Do they have a way of communicating their identity while they're saying, is anyone out there? When animals get together and it's not about who's out there, it's about let's let's interact socially to make all kinds of sometimes interesting and crazy sounds that are delightful to listen to. Most people know humpback whale song. One of the more complicated ways that whales communicate. Not all whales produce song. Right whales don't produce song. Fin whales produce a type of song, but it's just a very, very simple, they just play a note, the same note over and over and over again. Whales can probably use that information to tell how deep the water is that they're in, or what the bottom type is. Is it sandy? Is it rocky? They use this sound to really understand, not just communicate with one another, but to understand their environment.
But to use science to track the sounds of whales is actually a pretty huge endeavor. For one, the whales are in oceans that make up more than 70% of the Earth's surface. To mix species and metaphor a little, they are the proverbial big fish in an even larger pond.
So the acoustic technology is pretty simple in concept, and I can use an analogy to describe how it works. So sending actual recordings of the sound is really difficult because they use up a lot of data. It's just too much data for the bandwidth that we have. And so what we do is we send back representations of sound. If you were playing the piano and you had a magic box on the piano that as you played, it just spit out sheet music. You could take that sheet music to any musician and they would look at the notes on the page and they'd say, oh, Lisa was playing Mary Had a Little Lamb on the piano. That musician didn't have to hear you playing, they just had to look at the notes to know what you were playing. And so we have a person review this information, use their expertise to decide what species are there, and then that information about detection is disseminated.
Just where to find the location data on the whales, integrating with a cohesive navigational chart of hazards for mariners, is still in the works. But there are places like Whale Alert where you can see in real time.
This system is monitoring all the time, and when there are whales there, it tells everyone about it. And I know when we hear right whales there's probably a right whale in the shipping lanes, which to me is terrifying. It's good to just constantly remind people there are whales out there and they're imperiled by these shipping activities. We should do something.
I'm guessing that you are as passionate or more passionate about this now as you were 25 or 30 years ago. What drives that?
Seeing the right whale population decline has made me think a lot more about what it is that we do in the ocean and how our actions impact these animals. And so I've gotten involved in a lot of different aspects of how can we reduce our influence on these animals.
In Woods Hole, Massachusetts, I'm Lisa Fletcher for Full Measure.
So fascinating. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. We'll continue to search for more stories that hold powers accountable.